Hey listeners, Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network. I get the privilege of working alongside all of our creators at Enrollify, but I wanted to take just a quick moment to tell you about why I love the Talking Tactics podcast hosted by Diana Kibbolds. Every other Tuesday, Day drops a new episode where she focuses on a single tactic that moved the needle on any enrollment metric, from inquiries and booth visitors to apps completed and deposits, even registrations, you name it. The catch? The tactic had to be done with limited resources, either by a single person or a small but mighty team, or limited time, or maybe without a lot of money. The podcast format is fun and engaging, and it's just different from the more traditional 60-minute interview style shows. If you work in enrollment management or marketing, be sure to give Day's show a listen. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search Talking Tactics wherever you get your podcasts.
Maybe we collectively got to look in the mirror and think, have we not come to terms with what marketing is, what marketing needs, and what marketing can do? Because we are churning through talent that should be capable of driving a lot of value, but clearly there are factors here way beyond their control that are really causing some challenges. So again, I think the quiet part out loud is, man, every CMO I know wants to quit.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing over 15 years of ed tech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Higher Ed Pulse. Seth, you're calling in from a new location today. How's Arizona treating you?
It is great. Yeah, I'm out in Arizona for the week. I've got a series of new business and client meetings, but I'm also have snuck in a whole bunch of baseball. Spring training is out here, the Cactus League, and I brought Lola and Lauren with me, and Lola got to go to her first spring training game, which she miraculously got a foul ball and got an autograph and now thinks that happens at every game. And so really doing a great job of managing expectations with her. But it's been awesome. I love baseball. I think a lot of people know that. So it's been super fun getting out and spending a week in Arizona. Warm weather, good baseball, some great meetings. It's been like awesome all around.
I actually had no idea that you were a baseball fan. I don't know how this has never come up, but wait, what team do you cheer for?
So I have adopted the Padres. I grew up as a Mets fan in upstate. Obviously, you're from upstate too. But I have converted. My wife is a third generation Padres fan. Her grandfather actually ran Jack Murphy Stadium. And so she grew up like with the players. And so it's not really a negotiation. It's a mandate if you're going to marry into that family. So I have converted full on Padres fan, which is why we're out in Arizona watching the Padres play. We saw 3 games this week, which has been really fun.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, I grew up just south of Montreal, but in New York. And so I very much grew up in like a dual Expo/Yankee household.
Oh, very cool.
But my husband is very much a Giants fan.
That's right.
From San Francisco. So we have a very weird mix of teams that we follow with baseball.
Yeah, fair enough. I love that. That's awesome. Well, it's been fun. If anybody hasn't gone, spring training is a really fun time. It's definitely worth making a trip at least once.
Amazing. All right. Well, we're just going to pivot from baseball into talking about the role of chief marketing officers.
Yes.
See how smooth that transition was?
So smooth.
So smooth. So SimpsonScarborough released some terrific research. Over the last decade, they have done a study on the higher ed CMO. And 10 years ago, I think they probably started the study because the case needed to be made for why this role should exist. 10 years later, however, many institutions have that CMO level role, but their latest round of research on this topic has uncovered something that I know has been sitting in the back of my mind since I read it. So let me serve you up this quote.
Yeah, please.
Nearly every higher ed CMO in the US feels a pronounced degree of pressure from leadership with inadequate budget and staffing resources to meet those very same demands. I mean, just marinate on that for a second. I've been marinating on it for days.
Yeah.
Increased pressure, but inadequate budget and staffing resources is a recipe for disaster. I mean, no wonder every higher ed CMO wants to quit.
Yeah.
I mean, they have more than 250 respondents to this, and it's almost an equal split of private and public. So it is true. This is a finding that is true for CMOs at every level of tenure, campus size, and institution type. And maybe I can just say what we're all thinking. Today's marketing leader has to be this unicorn. There's so much pressure. You have to be a strategic visionary, an operational expert, up on the latest technology, experienced with data, a cross-campus collaborator, a relationship manager. Oh, and by the way, please also be a great people manager and leader for our campus. I mean, are we asking too much of these individuals? Are we not preparing them correctly? Seth, I don't want to drop an F-bomb on our podcast, but man, if there was ever a time, it was now.
Yeah, I'll say it's harder than ever. You know, folks that know me, I always say in higher ed, you know, enjoy today because it's the best day you'll have for the next 10 years because it only gets harder from here. You know, the market's more crowded and more complex. You know, I found the survey really interesting. I always find it valuable when it comes out every year. I think to your point, and the data point that was not in the survey, but it's sort of like the unspoken thing that I guess we're going to say out loud is that, you know, many CMOs are looking to leave. And I would say that most are thinking about it at a minimum, and many are actively looking to. So, you know, I'm not putting anybody on blast here, but it probably not a week to 2 weeks goes by that I'm not hit up by an active current higher ed CMO who's off the record letting me know they're looking to leave. And I mean, like literally in the past 4 weeks, I've heard from 3. And so don't worry, I'm not naming names. If you're listening, you know, I love you. I got your back 100%. And I'm keeping my eyes and ears open for folks. But from a trend perspective, that's concerning. And I think that was the piece that is the next iteration off of that survey. Is a survey kind of really painted this picture of like, why is the world for a CMO in higher ed so challenging? Not to mention that we don't have a seat at the table half the time. We don't have the resources that we need. We're asked to kind of pull miracles, and we're working with leadership that don't want to maybe always acknowledge the macro and, you know, industry trends and the headwinds that we're facing. The concern for me is the talent exodus. Now, talent exodus has always been a conversation in higher ed. You and I both are former institution employees that have left to go to the other side. And so one is folks that leave and stay within the industry. The other is folks that leave entirely. But, you know, the tenure of a higher ed CMO is short. CMOs in general are only typically in a role for about 3 years. Higher ed, it's hard as well. On the traditional undergrad side, the cycle is so long, you need real 18, 24 months to make a meaningful impact. You know, I'm worried for higher ed as a whole because of the talent that I'm seeing churn out, or at least the talent that's in my inbox saying, hey, I might be ready for something else. And I know how good those people are. And I know how talented they are. And so it's not a them thing. It's an us thing. And by us, I mean the industry. Like maybe we collectively got to look in the mirror and think, have we not come to terms with what marketing is, what marketing needs, and what marketing can do? Because we are churning through talent that should be capable of driving a lot of value, but clearly there are factors here way beyond their control that are really causing some challenges. So again, I think the quiet part out loud is, man, every CMO I know wants to quit. That is definitely kind of the inner headline I feel, which is really a somber, heavy thing. And again, I was in that boat too, and I did. And so like I feel like I can relate to folks that are on the institution side feeling like maybe they're more of an island than they thought.
Yeah, I have noticed just in the first couple months of this year, a drastic increase in people reaching out on LinkedIn or in other avenues just to network and have informational interviews. And largely, these are folks who are campus-based and are looking to explore their job opportunities off campus. And I think a lot of folks really were driven to this industry for the intention of making the world a better place and for helping students find that right fit institution. These are really wonderful mission-driven reasons for working here, but then get stuck on, campuses which are slower paced or full of these silos and are in leadership roles where maybe, at least what I'm hearing, they feel like they can't have an impact.
Yeah.
Not just a quick impact, but like an impact period.
Yeah.
Because of all of these barriers that just exist.
Yeah. And I think, it's not just the CMO role itself, it's the institutions as a whole. Like, there is a second pandemic we're experiencing, which is the exodus of college presidents. And so the tenure on college presidents has gotten a lot shorter, but the tenure for board members hasn't necessarily. And so we have this weird environment where we have boards that have been around for a long time, presidents that are coming in new, and, respectfully and not to paint with a broad brush, when an institution is looking to improve performance, everybody always thinks we have to fix marketing. And so we have folks coming in that maybe aren't traditional marketers. It's rare to have presidents as a CMO. Of note, my grandfather was one of the few college presidents that was a CMO background. He was president of Nazareth and came up in marketing. But that's a rare path. Most folks are coming up without marketing as a pedigree. And then they're coming in and they're maybe only staying for a few years. And so by the time they bring in someone new for marketing and they come in, that person's had a hard time having impact. And so, that leadership and air cover is challenging, especially because I think it's difficult for a president to push back on a board. A president wants to come in and paint that picture because who are they hiring, right? They're going to hire the president who says they can come in and right the ship or send us, on to calmer waters. And one of the ways to do that is we need to improve marketing. And so I think everyone has the best of intentions, but it really just paints CMOs into a corner oftentimes. And I think it's reasonable that people want to leave. I hope that they don't, in the sense that I want to see the impact on the institution side. Even I, as a former CMO, I miss sometimes the depth of the impact I could have working within one organization. But I also left, right? And I think at a personal better place. Like I love the work I'm doing now. And so, I think there are increasing stories of folks who have had that experience and left. And I guess the last thing I would say is, when I always thought I wanted to become a CMO. That was my path in higher ed. I started in higher ed, almost 20 years ago now. And that was what I thought I wanted to do. And then I became a CMO. And then I realized that maybe this isn't what I want to do forever, right? And, I had a chance to run a great team. I felt like I had an impact, but I also felt like I had my own challenges. And so I had to self-reflect on that too. And so I think a lot of times people think they want it until they get it and they realize maybe it's not quite what we thought. And that's unfortunate and probably just I don't know if it's fixable, right? If it's a matter of being addressed or like if it can be solved from an industry-wide perspective or not. I'm not sure it can. Maybe it just comes down to trying to play winnable games, making sure you're working for the right leadership, that you're negotiating the right kind of seat at the table early on, because it's difficult if you get into the situation after the fact to try to correct some of those things.
Yeah, well, any research around this topic inside higher ed or outside of our industry, the number one barrier to being successful in the CMO role is misalignment with the vision your CEO has set forth, right? So whether it's the CEO or the president, that is often the thing that people point to. Hey everyone, it's Mallory. I'm hosting the Engage Summit this summer in Raleigh, North Carolina. The theme of the conference is AI Got You. We're not just talking theories. This conference is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your institution. By the end, you won't just get AI. You'll be ready to lead your campus through an AI transformation. It's for everyone who wants to use AI to level up everything you're doing. Whether your focus is to recruit or retain, the summit offers a platform to learn, network, and bring back actionable insights to enhance your student engagement strategies. I hope you'll join me and some of your favorite Enrollify creators in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th, like Jamie Hunt, Dustin Ramsdell, and Allison Tercio. Use the discount code Enrollify50, and you can register for just $99. So join us at the Engage Summit this June. Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. We can't wait to see you there. I'm going to say something that maybe is a little controversial, so I will preface, but, I understand this first chapter of the SimpsonScarborough research is really focused on the budget and the resources. Also, side note, brilliant that they're releasing this research this year in chapters. And by the way, visit the website. It's like gorgeous and it's interactive and it moves. And so as a marketer, I just got to send some marketing appreciation to how SimpsonScarborough is unrolling this one out this year, A+ work.
Agreed.
Back to my hot take. So the research has uncovered a finding around teams being under-resourced, marketing teams, CMOs. I'm sorry, we're all under-resourced. Like, for the record, just because I work with an organization that provides me a .com email address, like, that doesn't mean that I'm not under-resourced too. The challenge as a marketing leader isn't always about the amount of resources or increasing those resources, but it's how effectively you're managing those resources that you are allocated. And we as marketing leaders have to get strategic and creative and innovative with these resources. Artificial intelligence is transformative in this process and allowing us to be more productive and overcome that brain drain that you mentioned earlier in this episode. Leveraging those existing assets innovatively can mitigate the resource constraints that we're facing. So I don't know, sometimes I think we like to sit back and just complain, but we also have to sometimes just roll our sleeves up and say, okay, what am I working with? And 2 years ago at AMA, there was an excellent presentation that showed a comparison from within higher ed and the budget breakdown to industries outside of higher ed. And the most notable thing in those two charts was in higher ed, our budget is largely like disproportionately high on the staffing side and low on the MarTech side compared to outside industries where it's a bit more balanced. And so, yes, you have to have the right people in place to handle your marketing technology. But when we think about scaling things like personalized engagement or, just enabling our staff and our team to get out of the manual drag of, collating information from 10 different point solutions and, all of that crap, more investment in marketing technology can be an answer here.
Yeah, I think it's right. I mean, I like the hot take. I think that, there's a reality that I don't know that anyone surveyed will ever say they're over-resourced. And so I think some of that comes down to like, how are we assessing that? And we're assessing it probably against the things that are being asked of us. And I think that's a broader question of like, back to your point of misalignment, which I think was a key theme here of this early chapter of the research, was that like one area of misalignment is expectation versus investment, right? And so it's, are you under-resourced or are you under-resourced to be able to pull off the things that are expected? And I don't even know if under-resourced is always correct. I think sometimes it goes back to the fact that like expectations just aren't realistic at all, meaning like how many times do you go to a budget season and it's like, I want to spend less next year, but I want to make more. It's like, wait, you want to get more students, but you want to spend less, but the market's more competitive and there's less students finishing high school. Got it. How in the world do you think that's the case without calling me a total idiot as your head of marketing, right? Like the only way you can put that plan together is to think that I haven't done some fundamental thing that I should be doing.
Right.
And then when you ask, it's like, which isn't fair. So I think some of that is like, it's bigger. I agree. I think it's way bigger than resources. I think the misalignment piece is bigger. And the other area I think of misalignment, I would say, is like, do you have the autonomy? So I agree with you on the people piece. I think we've invested too much as an industry in administration over the years. We've gotten much larger from an administrative perspective, and it's not always people that we need. Some of the most impressive companies, have 30, 40, 50 people in them as entire companies on the tech side of things. And so there's other industries that have figured this out. The question for a CMO coming in is, do you have the autonomy and are you empowered to actually make that impact, to go from a decentralized team to a centralized team, or an in-house team to an outsourced team, or vice versa, where you want to pull sources in and build an in-house team? Like, those are key components. Like, I've been lucky in my career, I've had the chance to build in-house agencies and to make those kind of changes. But if you don't, you're kind of like, we want you to inherit the model of the past, but sign up for the results of the future. And by the way, we're going to give you less money to do it. Like, that is a recipe for disaster. And so I think you're right. It's fair to poke on, am I under-resourced? Because there's a bigger, more important conversation, I think, happening underneath that. So I like the hot take and I co-sign.
Well, in our show notes, we're going to link directly to the SimpsonScarborough landing page where you can get access to the research. I'm also going to drop a link to Inside Higher Ed's call to action blog. I have found that the most recent articles published have all been around the CMO role. Some have been covering the fractional CMO role. Jenny Petty, actually from University of Montana, authored a terrific article. It's 10 questions to ask yourself before accepting a higher ed CMO role. And then Carrie Phillips produced a couple posts for Inside Higher Ed around training and leadership for the CMO. So spoiler alert, Carrie's actually going to be on a Pulse Check mini-series this spring.
Nice.
Talking about leading teams, building campus collaboration, setting vision, culture, budget, all of those things, because I think something we didn't talk about today, why maybe CMOs are looking to leave is maybe they weren't given the proper training in the first place to be successful. So we'll leave that conversation for the Pulse Check series, but that is definitely one to look forward to. Now, Seth, our last topic today before we sign off, we had a listener reach out and say, hey, I was listening to one of your recent episodes. You guys mentioned a book. I picked it up. It was really interesting. Can you fill my reading list for the next month?
Sure.
So we've been directly asked to provide some book recommendations. Where would you like to start?
For anyone in the CMO or leadership role or that runs their own business, there's a fantastic book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And that is a book that gets way in the weeds on even how to manage your inbox, how to manage your schedule to basically free up your time. It definitely is more geared towards an executive that has authority over teams, but I have found that tremendously valuable. So on the today's topic directly, I'd call for that. And just two others quickly I'd say is this, I don't know if it's perfectly aligned, but every single marketer that works for me, I always buy them two books. I buy them Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. I think it's one of the most inspiring and well-written stories about his time there. And then the second one is I always buy Principles by Ray Dalio, the world-famous investor. It's really just a best-in-class book about systems thinking, and it's sort of changed the way I approach how I do work, even though it's not directly related to marketing. So those are a few that I throw out.
Incredible. Well, I have two recommendations as well. The first is more strategic. The second is a bit more tactical. So the first book is 10 Types of Innovation. It's by Larry Keeley. And this was a book that I had to read for a class in my master's program, probably 6 years ago at this point. I keep it in the drawer, that is within arm's reach. I open it up probably once every other week. This book is terrific because it really breaks down what innovation is into its 10 different types, which goes far beyond just product innovation. We've referenced this actually in previous episodes when we were talking about pricing innovation. I absolutely love this book. Can't recommend it enough. And then the second one is Adele Ravella's Buyer Persona book. Literally, the title of the book is Buyer Personas. You know what you're about to get when you start reading it. But she has put the blueprint together for how to create buyer personas around complex decisions, which has been very valuable to me working at agencies and in ed tech, where the decision to buy a product or service, it requires 8 committees and 6 RFPs, et cetera. But for a higher ed pro, right, certainly one of the most complex decisions any individual is making is the choice of where they go to school. And so her focus is to strip away the demographics and really hone in around what she calls the 5 rings of insight. I won't spoil the book. You can go check it out, and we'll put all the links to these books in the show notes. Oh man, Seth, I think I say it every week, but just like that, another 20 minutes has just flown right by.
There it goes.
I would be remiss if I did not highlight Thursday's Part 3 Pulse Check series around personalizing the prospective student journey. Dustin Ramsdell and I wrap this conversation up with setting students up for success. And we will be exploring, once a student has committed to your institution, how should the institution work to prepare them? What are areas where digital technology can play a role? What makes a thorough orientation so important for students? And much more. So check that out, friends. And until next week, we'll see you next time. The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.